I made my bed inside the tack room on old saddle blankets made of wool. The smell of horse sweat drifting through my dreams made my young and woolly heart so full. The morning was cold as a kiss from the lips of your mother-in-law, as I saddled up the little sorrel gelding and I fingered an old snaffle in his jaw. I launched him in the high and broken sagebrush, with Carter down and looking down at me from the back of an old gangly outlaw that his mother-in-law gave him for free. We opened the gate to the cattle and they started jogging down the Mackey Draw. 1,100 mamas and their babies, the Downing boys are broncos in their paw, with the trucks and the pens still in sight. I saw a couple pairs change their mind and turn back from the herd and go to running for the green grass that they had left behind. So I turned the little head of the sorrel, I spurred him on to save the precious few, and he looked up to a gallop along beside them. And then what did that rascal decide to do but drop his head and hump and go to bucking? Old Hardy down and hollered across the draw, "You got him, son, just keep your seat and spur him." I looked up and I weakened when I saw the rocky wash that broke down to the bottom was coming quicker than a salesman talks. I loosened up my legs and I ejected, and I landed on my tailbone in the rocks. And me and Hardy watched old Jasper buck, and buck and buck and buck and buck some more, with the boys a whipping and the herd a running, and me a limping, gimping, broken sore. Well, I caught the sorrel gelding down the draw, I re-cinched and I gathered up the reins, and I climbed aboard and turned his head and spurred him in spite of all my aches and pains. And now we're in the herd and settled down. The boys were healing calves just for fun. The dun colt that Kalen had been ponying, his days as an outlaw they were done. Carter snubbed him, I walled up behind him, and Kalen got a wild look in his eye. He stepped up on the dun colt and he spurred him, and he pointed his face up to the sky. And friends, I'll tell you, I have seen some bronc rides, but never have I seen one quite like that, with Carter whooping right along beside them, and Kalen spurring, fanning his old hat. And when that wild ride had all but ended, old Kalen looked up with a salty grin. The colt was broken, lathered head to paw, and looking pretty glad to let Kalen win. And I looked out in front to open gates. We made it to the last long ridge and we pushed the herd headlong into a hailstorm. They started turning back on us again. Well, the sorrel gelding, he was losing heart as we finally topped out on Cedar Rim that looks down into Francis and the meadows. And I reined up and I stepped down off him. Well, there was no doubt my tailbone was broken. There was no doubt the sorrel was broken too. The herd fanned out and drifted down the canyon. The work's all done, there's nothing more we can do but wait for trailers, load up and head back, and thank the Lord for one more golden day, riding with my brothers from other mothers, trailing on the Big D right away, trailing on the Big D right away.